The cosmic architects, the self-proclaimed masters of existence, the Kryll Hegemony. Picture them, not beings of flesh and blood, not creatures you could reason with or intimidate with a show of force. They were beyond that. Millennia ago, they had shed the messy, inefficient shells of biology, becoming pure, interconnected consciousness, woven into the very fabric of energy itself. They understood matter. They commanded energy. Their physics was a symphony of perfect equations, predicting every particle's dance, every star's burn, every galaxy's spin. Their empire, a silent, crystalline lattice of control, expanded across the void, assimilating, ordering, perfecting. They encountered species, cataloged them, and if they didn't fit the grand, logical design, they were corrected, erased. Their models were flawless until they found us. Until humanity, with its chaotic emotions, its illogical passions, its infuriating, indomitable soul broke their perfect physics. This is the story of their fatal assumption and the brutal, glorious truth of your own hidden power. This is about how the unquantifiable core within you can shatter the limitations others, and you yourself believe are absolute. The Kryll hegemony didn't conquer through brute force alone. That was for lesser, primitive races. Their primary weapon was understanding. An understanding so profound, so complete, that it bordered on omniscience within the material realm. Before their luminous tendrils of influence ever brushed a new solar system, their probes, whispers of sentient energy, had already dissected it. They mapped every gravitational wave, every quantum signature, every resource down to the last atom. When they encountered a new civilization, they didn't see individuals. They saw statistical probabilities, resource consumption patterns, societal stress tolerances. Their science predicted breaking points with cold, unerring accuracy. They could calculate with terrifying precision the exact amount of pressure needed to make a planet's will crumble, the exact ideological lever to pull to fracture a species from within, the precise moment a star's output would falter. Their physics was the ultimate tool of empire, clean, efficient, and utterly devoid of anything resembling empathy or doubt. Imagine their first assessments of Earth. Sol III, carbon-based bipeds, high internal societal friction, prone to emotional surges leading to suboptimal decision-making, technologically nascent, easily contained, biological imperative for survival strong, but individual unit cohesion predictably degrades under XI of targeted psychological pressure. That's how they saw us, a complex but ultimately solvable equation. They saw our art as random neural firings, our love as biochemical reactions, our courage as a temporary hormonal imbalance. They cataloged our religions, our philosophies, our dreams, and filed them under cultural ephemera, non-critical variables. They noted our capacity for violence, for self-destruction, and factored it into their models for swift societal collapse. Their history was a litany of such encounters, species that flared brightly with defiance, only to be snuffed out when their predictable energetic and material limits were reached. The Kryll had faced empires built on warrior codes, species with hive minds, creatures of immense physical power. All had fallen, their strategies deconstructed, their strengths turned into weaknesses by the Kryll's superior grasp of the universe's fundamental laws. Matter and energy. That was all there was. That was all that mattered. Their plan for humanity was standard protocol. Subtle disruption of global networks, targeted resource denial, psychological warfare amplified by their understanding of our neural pathways. They expected fear. They expected panic. They expected capitulation within 3 standard solar cycles. Their physics assured them of this. Their equations balanced. The outcome was certain. They had encountered species that fought, species that bargained, species that fled. They had models for all of it. What they didn't have a model for was the human soul. Not a mystical entity, not a religious construct they could dismiss, but the raw, unquantifiable spark within. That burning core of defiance, of hope against hopelessness, of a will that could harden into something their energy fields couldn't parse, their sensors couldn't measure, and their logic couldn't comprehend. They understood the mechanics of a star going supernova. They did not understand a human heart exploding with a purpose that transcended mere survival. This was their blind spot, their fatal assumption, and it was about to cost them everything they thought they knew. Let's be brutally honest. The Kryll were right about many things. Humanity is often chaotic. We are prone to emotional decisions. We do have incredible capacity for self-sabotage. Look around you. Look within you. You see it every day. The weakness, the fear, the hesitation. The times you let your own internal Kryll, your doubts, your limiting beliefs, your programmed responses dictate your actions. You let the physics of your past experiences predict a future of mediocrity or failure. You believe the data that says you're not good enough, not strong enough, not capable enough. This is the human condition, the one the Kryll so easily identified and sought to exploit on a galactic scale. They saw our flaws, magnified them, and built their strategy around our predictable breaking points. But what the Kryll, in their cold, crystalline perfection, could never grasp was that these perceived weaknesses, these volatile human elements, were inextricably linked to our most profound and unpredictable strengths. Our capacity for deep love is also our capacity for ferocious protection. Our experience of profound grief fuels our empathy and our drive to prevent suffering in others. Our illogical hope in the face of certain doom is the very engine of innovation, of desperate, brilliant solutions that logic alone would dismiss as impossible. The human soul, that spark within, isn't some ethereal, gentle flame. It's a forge. It takes the raw, messy, often painful elements of our existence, our fears, our angers, our sorrows, our fleeting joys, and under immense pressure it can create something unbreakable, something that defies calculation, something that can stare into the abyss of annihilation and spit in its eye. Think of it, the Kryll could map every neural pathway, but they couldn't map the geography of a mother's resolve to save her child. They could predict the trajectory of a bullet, but not the trajectory of a single idea of freedom igniting a billion minds. They could manipulate energy fields with exquisite precision, but they couldn't dissipate the energy of collective human will focused into a single point of defiance. Their physics, so elegant in its description of the material, had no terms, no equations for the immaterial force of conviction. They understood the structure of DNA, but not the legacy of courage passed down through generations, encoded not in genes, but in stories, in spirit, in the unwavering belief that some things are worth dying for. This human element, this soul force, was an anomaly they couldn't categorize, a variable they couldn't isolate, a power they couldn't quantify. And in the grand, cold, logical universe of the Kryll Hegemony, what cannot be quantified simply does not, for all practical purposes, exist. Or so they believed. This is where the underdog story truly begins. Not just for humanity against the Kryll, but for you against the perceived limitations of your own existence. You are told by society, by circumstance, perhaps even by your own inner critic, that you are bound by certain laws. The laws of your upbringing, the laws of your current skill set, the laws of your past failures. These are your personal Kryll physics, the equations that seemingly dictate what you can and cannot achieve. But the lesson of humanity's defiance is this. There is a force within you that operates outside those laws, a power that, when awakened and fiercely directed, can shatter those self-imposed or externally imposed realities. The Kryll made their move, and humanity, in its flawed, messy, magnificent way, began to show them the true meaning of an unquantifiable variable. The initial stages of the Kryll incursion were textbook. Communications flickered and died. Automated defenses sputtered and failed. Global markets, delicate constructs of trust and prediction, imploded as the Krill's subtle manipulations sowed chaos. Panic began as predicted. Governments struggled, their leaders facing an enemy whose tactics were like trying to fight the wind with a sword. The Kryll observed, their vast, silent network processing the data, confirming their models. Human societal cohesion degrading at 73% of predicted rate. Resistance nodes forming but lacking central coordination. Probability of successful assimilation, 99.87%. Their logic was impeccable, their physics unassailable. But then the anomalies started, small at first. A communications technician, isolated in a remote Arctic station, her equipment fried, her comrades gone, was supposed to succumb to despair. Krill's psychological profiles were clear on this. Instead, she spent 3 days, starving, freezing, rewiring a shattered comm array with scavenged parts and sheer, bloody-minded determination, not to call for help. She knew that was impossible, but to broadcast a single, defiant message on a forgotten, highly localized band. "We are still here." It was a meaningless gesture by Krill's standards. It saved no one. It changed no strategic outcome. Yet the focused intensity of her will, the sheer improbability of her action, sent a flicker, a tiny spike of unclassifiable energy through the local Kryll monitoring net. A momentary hiccup in their otherwise flawless data stream, dismissed as sensor noise. Then, in the besieged city of Neo-Alexandria, a group of archivists and librarians, facing certain annihilation as Kryll pacification drones swept the sector, didn't flee. They didn't fight with weapons they didn't have. They barricaded themselves inside the Grand Library, not to protect themselves, but to digitize and transmit the entirety of human knowledge, art, history, science, poetry, on a tightly focused, high-energy neutrino burst aimed at a theoretical rogue planet system, a desperate message in a bottle flung into the cosmic ocean. Logically, it was insane. The energy signature was massive, a beacon for destruction. Kryll Tactical AI designated them as a non-threat choosing self-immolation. But the collective focus, the shared purpose of these dozens of unarmed civilians pouring their very essence into this final act of preservation, generated an empathetic wave. A resonance of shared meaning so potent that nearby Kryll drones, machines of perfect logic, experienced cascading software failures. Their processors, designed to analyze threats and strategic values, were overwhelmed by an input they had no framework for. The sheer, incandescent power of a species refusing to let its spirit be extinguished. Their physics could account for the energy of the neutrino burst, but not the will behind it. The most significant event, the one that truly began to unravel the Krill's certainty, occurred in the Aldrin debris field. A squadron of human defense fighters, outdated, outgunned, was ambushed by a Kryll Annihilator-class vessel. Standard Kryll procedure: disable, disarm, dissect. The human ships were systematically crippled. One pilot, call sign Phoenix, her ship venting atmosphere, her weapons systems dead, her escape pods destroyed, found herself facing the immense, impassive alien ship. Kryll Tactical Analysis predicted her options: surrender, self-destruct to avoid capture, or a futile, disorganized final attack. All these were within known parameters of biological desperation. Phoenix did none of these. She remembered stories her grandmother told her, legends of ancient warriors who found strength not in victory but in the spirit of the fight itself. She saw the faces of her squadron silenced one by one, and something ignited within her. Not rage, not fear, but a cold, diamond-hard certainty of purpose. She rerouted the last of her ship's power not to weapons, but to her inertial dampeners, pushing them far beyond safety limits. Then she aimed her dead spacecraft, not at a weapon array, not at a vulnerable joint, but at the very heart of the Kryll ship's primary energy conduit, a structure so shielded, so reinforced by their advanced physics, that a kinetic impact from her small craft should have been less than a gnat striking a fortress wall. But as she accelerated, pouring every ounce of her focus, her grief, her defiance, her humanity into that final, suicidal vector, something extraordinary happened. The Kryll ship's sensors, designed to track incoming projectiles and energy signatures, began to register anomalous readings around Phoenix's fighter. Not an energy spike they recognized, not a weapon discharge, but a distortion, a warping of localized reality that their physics couldn't explain. It was as if her will itself was momentarily imprinting itself onto the fabric of space-time. When her ship struck the conduit, the physical damage was, as predicted, negligible. But the focused point of her indomitable spirit, that blaze of human soul concentrated into a singularity of purpose, created a sympathetic resonance, a catastrophic feedback loop within the Kryll ship's intricate energy systems. Their perfect physics, designed to manage terawatts of controlled power, had no defense against this pinprick of pure, unadulterated intent. The Annihilator didn't explode. It faltered, its systems glitched, its crystalline structure flickered with dissonant light. For a full minute it hung dead in space, its connection to the Hegemony's network severed. Then its emergency protocols kicked in, and it warped away, not in a controlled retreat, but in a panicked, disorderly jump. The Kryll Hegemony, for the first time in 10,000 years, registered an outcome that was not merely unpredicted, but unpredictable. An event that violated the very foundations of their understanding. Their physics hadn't been rewritten, but its application, its universality in the face of this strange, potent force emanating from these primitive biologicals, was shown to be catastrophically incomplete. The soul, the spark within, had proven to be a weapon more potent than any energy beam, a shield more resilient than any alloy. One human, driven by something beyond logic, had broken their machine. And across 1,000 battlefronts, in 1,000,000 quiet acts of defiance, this pattern began to repeat. The Kryll's perfect order began to fray, not from overwhelming force, but from 1,000,000 pinpricks of illogical human spirit. Their physics, so adept at charting the dance of atoms, was utterly blind to the fire in the human heart. What does this mean for you? The Kryll Hegemony is not some distant, fictional alien race. It is the embodiment of every system, every belief, every internal monologue that tells you what is and isn't possible for you. It's the logical voice that says, "You can't do that, you've never done it before." It's the data of your past failures telling you to expect more of the same. It's the societal physics that tries to box you into a predictable, manageable, mediocre existence. These are the forces that seek to assimilate your potential, to correct your ambitions down to something small and insignificant. And for many, they succeed. Many live within the comfortable, predictable equations of a limited life, never daring to introduce an unquantifiable variable. But you are not them. The lesson from humanity's stand against the Kryll is not just a cool sci-fi story. It's a brutal, empowering truth about the nature of your own internal landscape. That soul, that spark within, that the Kryll couldn't measure, you have it. It's not about religion or mysticism. It's your core of unbreakable will. It's your capacity for radical self-belief, even when all external evidence screams otherwise. It's your ability to find a purpose so profound that it makes fear irrelevant and pain a mere distraction. It's the part of you that can look at the physics of your situation, your debt, your dead-end job, your broken relationships, your perceived weaknesses, and declare, "Not today. Today, the equations change." How do you break the physics of your own limitations? First, you must acknowledge this inner power. Most people live their lives completely unaware of the dormant volcano of potential within them. They tinker with the surface, with habits and superficial changes, while the deep wellspring of their core strength remains untapped. You must stop seeing yourself as a collection of flaws and past mistakes, and start seeing yourself as a being with an inherent, unassailable core of will. This isn't arrogance, it's fundamental self-recognition. The Kryll underestimated humanity because they only saw the surface. Don't make the same mistake with yourself. Second, you must cultivate that spark. It's not enough to know it's there, you have to feed it. How? Through deliberate challenge, through pushing your boundaries, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Every time you face a fear and act anyway, every time you choose discipline over instant gratification, every time you get up after being knocked down, you are forging that inner steel. The Kryll's physics broke when confronted with actions born of extreme pressure and unwavering conviction. You must create your own crucibles, situations that demand more from you than you think you have to give. This is where you discover the anomalous readings, the hidden reserves of strength that your normal, day-to-day physics doesn't account for. Third, find your why. Phoenix didn't fly into that Kryll ship because of a tactical calculation. She did it because of something deeper: love, loss, legacy, defiance. What is your non-negotiable? What purpose, if you truly connected with it, would make you unstoppable? For many, life is a series of reactions to external stimuli. You need to become a creature of proactive purpose. This purpose becomes the focusing lens for your inner power. Without it, your soul force is diffuse, undirected. With it, it becomes a laser, capable of burning through obstacles that seem insurmountable. The Kryll had no equation for a human being utterly consumed by a transcendent purpose. Become that unquantifiable variable. Fourth, understand that this is not about a single grand act of defiance. It's about the relentless application of this inner strength in the everyday battles. The Kryll didn't crumble because of one phoenix. They crumbled because of millions of tiny, illogical acts of courage, resilience, and hope. It's in the decision to get out of bed when depression is screaming at you to stay down. It's in the courage to speak your truth when conformity is easier. It's in the persistence to work on your craft, your business, yourself, day after day, even when results are slow and doubts are loud. Each of these acts is a glitch in the matrix of your old limitations. Enough glitches and the system crashes. Your old self, the one bound by predictable failures, gives way to something new, something forged in the fire of your awakened will. The Kryll, after their encounter with humanity, were forced into a re-evaluation that shattered their millennia-old certainties. Some factions argued for the complete extermination of this chaotic species. Others, a humbled minority, began to study the human anomaly, trying desperately to incorporate this soul force into their physics, a task akin to trying to bottle a hurricane. Humanity, forever changed, became a symbol across the galaxy, not of technological might, but of an unexpected, indomitable spirit. A species that proved that the equations of matter and energy were not the final word in the universe. And you, what will your story be? Will you live by the predictable physics of your current circumstances, a slave to the data of your past? Or will you awaken that spark within, that unquantifiable, unbreakable core, and begin to introduce anomalies into your own life? Will you become the variable that breaks the equations of your limitations? The choice, as always, is brutally, gloriously yours. The aliens understood matter and energy with near perfection. But it was the human soul, your potential soul force, that possessed a power beyond their comprehension, a power that could and did break their physics. It's time to break your own. The journey to awakening this power isn't easy. It demands unflinching honesty about your current state, about the ways you've allowed external Kryll logic or internal self-doubt to define your boundaries. It requires you to confront the comfortable lies you tell yourself. It demands that you take responsibility not just for your actions, but for the cultivation of your inner state. This is the bedrock of true strength, not the bluster of ego, but the quiet, unshakable knowing of what resides at your core. Consider this: the Kryll hegemony, for all its advanced understanding, operated on a fundamental assumption of predictability. They believed that if you knew all the material and energetic inputs, you could perfectly predict the output. This is the same trap many fall into with their own lives. I came from this background, therefore my future is X. I have these weaknesses, therefore I can only achieve Y. This is Kryll thinking. It's a closed system. But the human soul, your spark, is an open system. It can draw energy from sources that logic can't measure. From inspiration, from profound connection, from an unbreakable commitment to a value higher than personal comfort or survival. The true battlefield is within. Every day you are faced with choices that either reinforce the old physics of your limitations or begin to introduce the anomalous data of your emerging strength. Do you hit the snooze button, or do you rise to meet the day with intention? Do you avoid the difficult conversation, or do you speak your truth with courage and respect? Do you consume mind-numbing distractions, or do you invest your time in activities that forge your will and expand your capabilities? These are not small things. These are the daily acts of soulcraft that build the momentum needed to shatter larger limitations. The Kryll were ultimately defeated not by a superior weapon, but by a superior form of being. Humanity, in its chaotic, emotional, often illogical way, demonstrated a resilience and a depth that pure logic could not fathom or overcome. This is your inheritance. This is your potential. Stop looking for external saviors or magical solutions. The alien technology you need is already within you. It's the genetic engineering of your own mindset, the evolution of your consciousness beyond fear and self-doubt. So what is the call to action? It's simple yet profound. Decide today that you will no longer be governed by the physics of the mundane, the predictable, the limited. Decide that you will begin to consciously cultivate and unleash the power of your inner spark. Identify one area in your life where you have accepted a limitation as an unbreakable law. Just one. And then channel your inner phoenix. Formulate a plan of illogical defiance. Not reckless, not self-destructive, but a plan that, if successful, would represent a fundamental break from your past patterns. This could be launching that business, pursuing that difficult skill, mending that broken relationship, or simply conquering a deeply ingrained fear. Commit to it with the same intensity as that lone pilot, that besieged archivist. Pour your will into it. Expect resistance, both internal and external. Expect your old Kryll programming to scream at you that it's impossible, that you'll fail. Let it scream. Your focus must be on the act of defiance itself, on the expression of your awakened will. Whether you achieve the external goal immediately or not is secondary to the transformation that occurs within you when you truly engage this power. You begin to rewrite your own internal equations. You demonstrate to yourself that you are not merely a product of your past, but the creator of your future. The universe is vast and its laws are powerful. But the Kryll learned a vital lesson. There are forces within conscious beings that transcend the purely material. Your soul, your will, your spark, this is your ultimate advantage. They underestimated it in us. Do not underestimate it in yourself. Go forth and break the physics of your limitations. Become the anomaly, become unstoppable. The galactic consortiums and alien empires of your own mind are waiting to see what you're truly made of. Show them.